All right, guys, Slumpbuster, FFB, episode 24. The mocks are croc on three. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Slumpbuster. Quiet on the set. Make sure my mic is on. There is Dre and Juju dog diving towards the pylon. Go for 2, so damn rude. Recognize authority. Spitting tips for fantasy. No way you're outscoring me. Bold predictions with conviction every single day. Sports addiction, no restriction. Kicking game like Pele. He's the greatest. What's the basis? Pick an athlete. Let's debate this game. Outrageous trading places. Sudden death. Take 10 paces. Turn and shoot. Boys the truth. Mamba mentality. Future greats take their place. Dreams become reality. Low and outside, knocked it out the park. Your boy discovered fire like a rock with a spark. Refs acting like Neanderthals. Phantom flags, nothing calls. Heartbreak losses, tragic falls. Every week discuss it all. Settle in, listen up. Free your time like Andrew Luck. Show's about to start. I suggest you buckle up.
Mock walk.
Our croc.
Our rhythm's a little off, I mean, damn, but in fairness, I am with a musician, right? After all, you have way better rhythm than I do. Speaking of which, I'm Juju Talk Sports, filling in for the Fantasy Aristotle today, and I have a pretty awesome guest. He is a DraftKings champion. He is a best-selling author, and this man's got bars for days. I want to introduce the fantasy football rapper himself. Welcome into the Slumpbuster.
What up, bro?
It's good to have you, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I just saw that I'm not doing as good as Derrick Henry. You know what I'm saying? I'm not 50 million good, but, all things considered, I'm alive. So that's all I could ask for.
Yeah, he's probably doing a little bit better than Titans. I mean, it's like that thing, haven't we learned that paying running backs, typically, and especially running backs that don't contribute in the passing game, not really a great idea. But, I mean, what do you think about Derrick Henry, just first of all? Do you think that he's worth where he's going right now in ADP? He's going top 7.
Top 7? No, I wouldn't take him top 7. You can make an argument for it. I personally wouldn't do it, but it's not like I absolutely hate it. It's not like Todd Gurley going in the second. That's just catastrophe. But it's just not my cup of tea because something you alluded to, he's not a pass catching back. But, I mean, that didn't stop him from being, top running back, what was he, top 2 or 3 last year. So I can't really fault anybody that wants to take him that high.
Yeah, I mean, definitely where Derrick Henry feasts. He feasts in the later part of the year where no one wants to tackle him. Like when he faces the Jacksonville Jaguars and they're just like, fuck that. I'm not even going to touch this guy, Then again, I don't blame him. You see that guy and you start making career decisions. You're like, if this guy runs over me, it's probably going to hurt. I'm probably going to fill this one for the next 2 weeks at least. So, I mean, hey, I'm happy for him. He got paid. But in terms of fantasy value, he's like one of those guys I want to stay away from because to pay that premium, I want to know that I'm going to get a very high floor guy. I want him to at least be in that running back 1 range without a doubt. There was a large part of the season, and maybe that was Marcus Mariota, where I didn't feel like Derrick Henry was really that guy.
Mm-hmm. And we've seen that for a couple of years now, like 2 or 3 years in a row where he starts off super slow, where he's like an RB2 the whole year. And then all of a sudden that weather starts cooling. Like you said, nobody wants to tackle somebody that's like 260 pounds coming full steam when the weather's like 30, 40 degrees or lower.
Yeah. And it's going to also be up to Ryan Tannehill. We haven't seen him stay healthy a full year. If he's hurt or misses time and they have to go to their backup, if the Titans are trailing in games, that's where you lose Derrick Henry. They have to be ahead for him to be a fantasy relevant player. That's the big problem I see with him. And that's just a general game plan. He could get ridden out because if they're trailing, they don't throw him the ball. 18 receptions last year. It's just criminal how little the guy touches the ball on third down compared to some of the other running backs in that range. I mean, right there, you're talking about Alvin Kamara, Zeke, he's game compared to. Even that next tier down, I think I like Joe Mixon and Kenyon Drake a little bit more.
Oh, absolutely. I do too. Well, yeah, I mean, to me, the most important thing about the first round, and it's funny because I'm nicknamed the fantasy football reacher. I'm big on going for upside, but not in the first round. most important thing for me in the first round is security. So, like, I don't know if I want to do Drake in the first round, but I don't know if I want to do Henry either. But you did mention Joe Mixon. Absolutely love Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, that was probably one of the worst offensive lines we've had in the history. They were down to like the third or fourth left tackle, and he still made something out of it. I mean, it took him like the whole year to do so, but just goes to show how talented he is. So Joe Mixon, yes. Kenyon Drake, I'm a little weary of. I'll probably be fading both in the first round.
Hey, that's fair, and I completely get it. Hopefully, like with the quarterback situation changing around in Cincinnati, like we might get more production out of Mixon, and we'll talk about a little bit more him in a little bit as we kind of have 3 running backs in particular that are in contract situations that we want to talk about. But I want to first start off on this topic. So we were talking. This was originally supposed to be a mock draft show, and you made a compelling case. Mocks are crock, and I kind of wanted to get your take on that more and see. I mean, I understand where it's coming from because you never know. Like some drafts, like particularly 5 years ago, and when I'm drafting with my friends, you'd see like Aaron Rodgers go in the first round. You'd see Drew Brees go in the first round. So like expert drafts are not anywhere close to what you're going to see in your like day-to-day leagues. So why don't you kind of like expand on that take for me and kind of like walk me through it?
I just think it's fool's gold. I really am baffled by the amount of analysts that have the audacity to post this as content. And I don't know if you do that or not, but to me, it's like when people tell me to rate my mock, that's complete bullshit because if you're in any type of competitive league, your team's never going to look like your mock. It's just not. So I see these mock drafts like rate my mocks, and they've got this all-star team that's just completely unrealistic. That's one thing. Another thing is that, a lot of people that do mocks, they do it to try new things, okay? So let me try this strategy. Let me try that strategy. So when money's on the line, you're not going to be doing that. So you might go into the mock, and I've done this before in the past, where I was like, okay, I expect this player to be here at 4th or 5th, and all of a sudden, it's like that old Mike Tyson quote. Everybody got a plan till you get punched in the face. Then you get punched in the face, and they throw your whole draft off balance. So I'd rather go in there with an open mind and just stick to my game plan, which is select the best player available. I have my board. I break it down into tiers. So if one person in that tier is taken, I'll just go with the other one. And that seems to work for me. But mock draft, that ain't it. Now, if you want to use mock draft to practice because you're new, you want to get in the flow of how a draft might go, practice with 2 minutes, whatever your timer is, I get that. But if you're game planning, no.
Okay, I get it in particular. Like if you're trying to set your strategy and you're thinking, okay, so I know for a fact that A.J. Brown's going in the 3rd round, so that I can just lock that in stone. That's completely fair. I think why I kind of do appreciate the art of at least mock drafting is you just got to get into that flow. Like if you haven't drafted in like months and months and months, I do think that you just, just break down minutia. And then too, for, like if you're more of a casual player, and I think the majority of players out there are legitimately just casual players, then you just kind of like got to put some new names on your radar sometimes, like maybe you're not up to date with like who's the new rookies coming out. Maybe you didn't even know that the Chiefs got Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So you kind of have to like at least go through a few mocks to like get an idea. Okay, so people are kind of more or less valuing him in this range. Again, like you're right, don't lock it in the stone because even though he may have went in the 3rd round in like your mock draft, the guy from your work league, he might just say, you know what, I like this guy. I'm going to draft him with my 1st overall pick, and that's that. So I completely understand where you're coming from. Plus, too, when you're in those drafts, I will say this, one flaw that we've come across is the auto draft system, in particular with stuff like Yahoo, how they'll try and fill out a draft with kickers and DSTs in the back end, and it gets a little messy, especially when you start seeing kickers go in the 7th round, which is just gross, and it just kind of makes me puke in my mouth a little bit. But then again, that's also just kickers being in fantasy football in general. I don't know how you feel about that one too.
I'm actually one of the few people that like kickers. It adds kind of a luck element. It just feels more like fantasy football. I guess I'm a little bit more of a traditionalist, although for our expert league, I was pushing for a super flex just because I like challenges. I don't like when you become so familiar because I've known these guys for quite a bit of time. we're in other leagues together. You know, people start picking up on your tendencies. So when you add a new element, I like that. But I have no problem with kickers. It's not like, oh my God, I love kickers, but I don't mind it because a lot of times it could be that difference maker. You know what I'm saying? So I don't mind it.
Maybe it's more a problem with me because I'm a bit of a completionist. So when I'm making like our rankings for the website and I have to make a Photoshop cover of a kicker, I just like pound my fist against the wall having to Photoshop off Justin Tucker each and every week because that's the extent of kicker analysis I have to do. But I guess that's kind of like, okay, so that, you know, that's fair. And hey, I think it's important for everyone to know different ways to get ready. How would you get ready without mocks included in your personal way? What's a good way for someone to prep in your mind, aside from listening to the Fantasy Football Rapper?
I mean, here's the thing, though. I think it just depends, and you kind of, you know, touched on this. I guess for me, I think I'm more of the experts analyst, like the people that are advanced in fantasy football. Usually, I get more of those people as my followers. If you're a beginner in fantasy football, I mean, you could follow me and stuff, but like, I'm obsessed with fantasy football. Like, I'm really, and I think, you know, I can't say with 110% certainty because I'm not there with all these guys, but I probably watch more football than anybody else. So for me, I think the best way to play fantasy football is to watch. But a lot of people do not actually watch football. You would think they do, but they really don't. They watch, they're what I call box score watchers. They watch a lot of statistics. And I also have another phrase that goes, you know, everybody says men lie, women lie, numbers don't. That's bullshit. Numbers completely lie. And I'll give you 101 examples how they do lie. So if you go by just numbers, which is why I have my main phrase, I know I'm throwing all these phrases, talent over everything. I think that's the one constant that you could rely on when push comes to shove. There's no foolproof way of playing fantasy football. If you go this strategy, that strategy, there's no 100% fantasy football. But if you go with talent over everything, I think that's going to get you to the closest point that you could rely on something rather than going by stats or strategies or anything like that.
Okay, well, let's talk about like people that aren't familiar with what you do. So obviously you've made quite a name for yourself in daily fantasy football with like stuff like DraftKings and all that. But I do want to say, like, so did the fantasy come first, or did the rap come first, or did you just say, you know what, I love both so much, I'm just going to mix them together and just see what comes out?
That's a good question, actually. So I would say I've always loved both. And coincidentally, I got into both at the same time. So I probably got into hip hop when I was about 10. Really? I mean, I was listening to hip hop probably like 8, but like really like became obsessed with hip hop. I was probably around 10. And that's the same time I became obsessed with sports as well. So for a while I wanted to be, my first love, I wanted to be an actor. And then I was living in Orlando at the time. And I saw that all the actors, all the castings were in LA, where Orlando was kind of big in music, not necessarily hip hop, but like pop and things like that. So, and I used to listen to hip hop and I was like, I could rap better than these guys, or so I thought. I thought it was so easy to rap. The part that came easy to me was the writing. The part that was hard was the delivery. Like, it would sound a certain way in my head, but then when I got to the studio, it was like, oh, I don't like the way I sound. Like, I just didn't. So anyway, so I was rapping and I wanted to be a rapper. Okay. And then I was just into sports. I had no, you know, I always kind of wanted to be, I think my dream job is to be a GM. That's why I take this stuff so serious. Like, I really treat it like it's my team. And then one day it was kind of funny because I think I might have been smoking weed or something. And some news happened and it was about basketball and it inspired me. My first sports rap was a basketball rap and I called it NBA Diss. So I basically started like shitting on all these different NBA moves that happened in the past. And then from there, my friend was like, you should do a sports rap. So then I was rapping about all sports. And then I kind of like, I don't know, as I got older, I started caring less and less about sports, but I love fantasy because it's not even that I love football. I just love the strategy behind it. Like I said, I like being a GM. It's like trying to outwit your opponent. that's the part I love. It ain't even football. So I just became concentrating on that. Didn't think it was going to become a business. I guess my dream was to make it on ESPN or whatever. And then I realized that in today's day with social media and stuff, you could be your own brand. You don't have to rely on a network or anything. And that kind of opened up my mind, and here I am.
Well, who are you listening to these days? What hip hop artist is catching your eye?
That's the funny part. That's the funny part is I barely listen to hip hop these days. I listen to more Spanish music. I listen to more like trap, reggaeton.
Okay.
And I listen to, like Anuel, I don't know if you know him, Bad Bunny. And then I like electronic music. I think hip hop, there's certain songs I like, but as far as artists, I can't remember the last time I sat there and listened to a whole artist album. I still want to check out that Pop Smoke album. Okay. I started listening to a little bit of Juice WRLD. He's pretty cool too, but there's no artist that I'm like, wow, I think the last album I listened to completely was the Jay-Z album, because I love Jay-Z, the 444 album, but that's probably the last album. That was a couple years ago.
Checking out any Joyner perhaps? I mean, he's been coming out with some good stuff lately. Yeah. Surprise you too, but I've listened to some couple good MGK tracks after the Eminem diss. A lot of people just wrote him off, but he's actually been dropping some good stuff in quarantine lately.
I think MGK is a very talented rapper. I actually like MGK, and I think he won that battle. Probably a lot of people don't agree with me, but I don't really care. To me, that was a really good diss. It's just weird, dude. I'm so busy that like I'm not as much as a music fan. It's like if I hear something interesting or whatever, then I'll listen to it. But as far as like being an actual fan, like I have 3 businesses that I'm running right now, so it's kind of like whatever. I have time that I listen to. But I did hear that Joyner song that he did about Will Smith. I thought that was really clever. So.
It's interesting to listen back to that song right now, especially when he's talking about, I wish I could find me a queen like Jada.
I know, right?
Yeah, so some entanglement issues. We should talk about some.
What is that? Okay, yeah. Can somebody explain this to me? Because I feel like that word just took off over the weekend. Now all I see is entanglement. So I didn't watch the interview. Obviously, I know she cheated on him with this singer, August, whatever. And is that what she said on the interview, that it was an entanglement? Is that why it got so popular?
Yeah. So what happened, right, is like he was straight up asking, like, you want to explain the situation, right? And she's like, okay, so I met, like, I think, what's his name, like August or whatever. And we ended up in some sort of entanglement. And like Will Smith, you just see like the look like, bro,
yes.
Just be real. Like, you cheated on me. That's all it is. Entanglement. You come up, you're making up words now at this point to get over yourself. I mean, oh my God. I really hope that Will Smith just revives his music career now, because he did release also a remix of that Joyner song where
I heard that. He killed that shit.
Yeah. So I think, who knows? Maybe he'll come out with a diss track. No, I'm kidding. He won't. But anyway.
I know, when it comes to artists, I swear the best music I wrote was during the breakup. You need that kind of like hurt. It brings out the best of you sometimes, that vulnerability. So I wouldn't put it past him. Will Smith's a talented guy.
Yeah, once you get past like all the current rap where they're just rapping about how much money they got. But, there's nothing wrong with rapping about money or making a little money. That's why I'm going to shout out our sponsors, manscaped.com.
This is a message brought to you by the Foundation for a Perfect Package.
Why do I need Manscaped?
Why do I need Manscaped?
Why do I need Manscaped?
Because the only frill I want is the one up top.
Because being in a relationship is not an excuse to be lazy.
Because I like talking ball, not smelling like them.
Because deforestation is proven to prevent forest fires.
Manscaped is the only brand dedicated to below-the-waist grooming.
Manscaped's Crop Preserver guarantees that you smell your best all day long.
Manscaped Boxer Briefs are the most comfortable underwear on the market.
Manscaped's advanced skincare technology makes nicks a thing of the past.
Manscaped is the #1 in men's grooming. Subscribers get 2 free blade refills every 3 months. Get 20% off plus free shipping and handling with the promo code SLUMP at manscaped.com. That's the promo code SLUMP at manscaped.com. Get your Lawnmower 3.0 today.
We are the Slumpbusters.
And we approve this message.
the next thing is obviously, like I said, you've made a great career in like daily fantasy, and we've had like some podcasts that like play the long game, the dynasty game. But daily has its own unique strategies, and that I think that a lot of people could like benefit from learning on, because it's becoming more popular than even season long, I feel.
Yeah, it's almost like I thought about actually making that transition to just focusing on daily, since I guess I kind of made the biggest name for myself on that. But yeah, I love daily, and it is a totally different strategy. No, for sure.
Yeah, like how do you go about like whenever you're trying to like pick your team, whether DraftKings, Fantasy Pros, whatever you're doing it on? Like, I mean, it's mostly a value game, like anything else in fantasy football. But how do you like go about analyzing like, okay, this guy, I could see him, he's only selling for a couple bucks and he's just going to pop this week. Like what's your process, I guess, in that situation?
Well, I think the most important thing you got to look at is the first thing I look at is you go to the Vegas odds, which are the games that are going to be the most high scoring. So you want to try to get as many players in that. So if the Tampa Bay versus Saints game, you know that's going to be a high scoring game. So what you want to do is for your cheap players, you want to get like third receiver, because everybody's always like, okay, Tampa versus, New Orleans, you got Mike Evans. Everybody's going to be picking Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and, and Michael Thomas and everything like that. But it's always that random guy that Traquan Smith or, I don't know, Ronald Jones sneaks in. It's always those little guys that seem to pop off. So I do several different lineups. Yeah, I'll have my Mike Evans and my Godwin, but then I'll make sure that I have other lineups where I have some of these lesser known players that are going to be super cheap, but they could be very, very valuable, because the more points, the more opportunities. So that's usually how I pick my flex. I think in order to be successful in DFS, you got to get the chalk guys. Like it's a weird strategy. Like, I don't think anybody thinks like this. I never heard anybody say it, at least publicly, but I know based on my experience, I've been playing now since 2016, so 4 years pretty much. I know every week there is players that are expected to do good that do good. I knew every week that there's players that are expected to do good that do bad. And I know every single week there's a wide receiver 3 that performs like a wide receiver 1. That is full proof. Like, there's no every single week. It's not a theory. This is tested. So with that said, I got to try to figure out who's that wide receiver 1. Like, we've seen it time and time again. It's like DeAndre Hopkins versus Tampa Bay. We think he's going to get like 40 points and he ends up getting, and not necessarily do bad, but maybe he gets 15. So I know that I have to figure out who's that player that might bust. Who's that, player? Oh, there's also a player in a hard matchup. I'll never forget a couple years back. I give this example all the time. It was sticking with DeAndre Hopkins. It was DeAndre Hopkins versus Seattle, the Legion of Boom. I'll never forget this. This is when Seattle was like they were the shit. It was Deshaun Watson's first year, 2017. I actually had followers ask me, hey, should I bench DeAndre Hopkins? It's like, absolutely not. DeAndre Hopkins on the Legion of Boom goes for 200 yards receiving. Yeah, like 10 plus reception, 1 or 2 touchdowns, 200 yards receiving. So a lot of people will fade DeAndre Hopkins because he's always super expensive. So they'll be like, no, I'm not paying $8,700 or whatever they go for DeAndre Hopkins versus Seattle. That's just a bad move. So you kind of want to go that route. You want to go players that people are fading, because those will end up winning you money because there's less competition. So like you said, I go on and on about the strategy, but that'll give you kind of like a glimpse at what goes on in this crazy head of mine.
Yeah, I've seen like a couple people like take these like stances as well. Like, you want to at least lock in like one for sure thing. Like, you don't want to just go all strictly the value plays. And what position when setting your lineup do you think it's easiest to do that at? I mean, there's no for sure things in fantasy football. We all know this. But at the same time, locking in a running back 1, locking in a wide receiver 1, what has proven to be more fruitful for you when doing it?
Definitely running back, because, wide receivers have to rely so much on game script. Running backs do to a certain extent, but not really. Not if they're pass catching back, because if you got a dual back, like somebody like Gurley, not last year's Gurley, but 2 years ago Gurley, or Fournette, or somebody like that, if the team is up, not that the Jaguars are ever up, but let's say hypothetically if the Jaguars are up, they're gonna run the ball with Fournette to run it out. Let's say if they're down, he's a pass catching back. They're gonna throw him those little dunk passes because defenses start teeing off. So I think they're more football. But if like the Saints are up 40-0, they're not just gonna keep feeding Michael Thomas the ball. I mean, sometimes they do, but I mean, and Michael Thomas is about the shortest thing. So I think there are a couple of exceptions, like Michael Thomas, Devontae Adams. So they just get a ton of targets no matter what. But for the most part, I think, your Saquon Barkleys, your Ezekiel Elliott's, those guys are more safer if they got, a softball matchup like the Miami Dolphins or something.
When you say like would you say the level of difficulty in picking a daily fantasy is too much for the average newbie? If let's say you didn't even play season long.
Yes.
Yeah. It takes a little bit of practice to really get into it. Okay. So then with that said, probably build up your resume a little bit playing that season long game before you try and jump headfirst into daily fantasy football and start throwing money out the door.
Here's why. And this is the most common mistake DFS players make. And I make the mistake. And I made the mistake when I first started playing. The most common mistake DFS players make is they spread out their money. So they get a good player at each position, and they're like, my lineup is so beautiful because I got, not the best quarterback, but I got a really good one. Not the best running back, but I got a really good one. So they spread it out. What I realized, the times that I've won, is that I spend a lot of money on couple of positions, and there's a couple of positions where they just look ugly, like a Traquan Smith or like some random person. And unless you're very, very, deep into this and know like a team's third or fourth receiver, then you might not do as good. So you got to know those players. Like when I was competing in the championship, guys like Greg Ward, Steve Sims, all these guys popped off. And if you're just a casual player and you're just like, you have to have balls too. Like a lot of people are like, I'm not playing Greg Ward for money. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's the most common mistake people make. And so it's harder because that's how you play real life. You start your best players. In daily, it's not about that at all.
You are prone to fantasy heartbreaks, I feel, too, playing the daily game a little bit more. What would you say has been your biggest fantasy heartbreak playing the daily game?
Oh, man. It pains me. You saw it. I just took a deep breath. So it was in the championship. It was in the championship. My original lineup, I had Patrick Mahomes the whole week. And I had Patrick Mahomes. Did I still start Saquon? I'm not sure if I started Saquon, but I had Patrick Mahomes, Saquon, and Tyreek. I think I might have still started Saquon. I pulled out Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek in the last minute because of a snowstorm. Oh, I had Kenyon Drake. Patrick Mahomes, and Tyreek the whole week. My cousin sends me a text. He's like, hey, the beat writer says they expect David Johnson to get more carries. And Kenyon Drake, he had a couple games where, like, for the most part, he played good as a Cardinal, but he had a couple games that were like, okay, not the best. I forget who he was playing. So, my head's spinning. I'm in Miami. I'm in the championship. And then I look it up and I see that. But it wasn't a beat writer. And this is why you have to be so knowledgeable and so, like, it takes so much work and knowledge and stuff. So I got confused because I'm in Miami. I'm having a good time. And I was like, oh, yeah, he's right. He sends me the link. What I didn't realize till after, and if I realized this at the time, I would have done that. It was The Athletic. It wasn't a beat writers. Because the only ones I really trust a little bit, I don't trust Coach Talk. I don't trust if ESPN says something because they're just making assumptions just like every other asshole. But if it's a beat writer, beat writers usually have more of an in on the team. Those are the only people I kind of listen to, even though not really. So I thought it was a beat writer because he said it was a beat writer, and I saw the link and I was like, okay. Even though my gut told me not to, I was like, Drake is just fuck. I forgot who he's playing. It was a softball matchup. So I pulled out Drake, and then the snowstorm hit. I was like, shit, well, it's a snowstorm. I thought to myself it could go two ways. I was like, Patrick Mahomes could ball out because it's slippery and you got speed like Tyreek Hill. Or I thought, okay, that snowstorm looks bad. I was like, okay, maybe I should just fade this game altogether. So I took out Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek, and Kenyon Drake. It ended up costing me probably like $100,000, $200,000. If I would have kept my original lineup like I had it the whole week, I would have been definitely amongst the winner's circle. Definitely, I think the top 5 or 6. I wouldn't have won the million, and it was for $1 million. So I think the top 5 get over 6 figures. So we ended up winning, I think, I don't remember, maybe like 40 grand or 30 grand or something like that. But yeah, that one last move right before kickoff cost me over 6 figures.
I know there's a lot of high-stake leagues, but I don't think that a lot of our listeners can say that they lost 6 figures on their biggest heartbreak. So I'm feeling for you. That one hurts me. Like, it just made me cringe so hard inside. But hey, man, you'll be back. I know for a fact you'll be back. Let's talk about some other guys that are trying to make some money for themselves. So we have 3 running back holdout situations right now. Mostert in the Niners, Dalvin Cook in the Vikings, and Joe Mixon in the Bengals. Is there any of these situations that actually concern you? Because they are negotiating, all 3 of these guys equally are negotiating from place with no leverage.
Yeah, I think the one I'm most concerned about is the one people are least concerned about, which is ironic. I'm definitely more concerned about Dalvin Cook. I think Joe Mixon will sign. I think Cincinnati will cave. I mean, Cincinnati is just a lost franchise. They need Joe Mixon. They got money to blow. Not a big deal. Raheem Mostert absolutely has no leverage. Kyle Shanahan could pick, a grocery bagger and make him a star running back in that zone scheme, so it's not a big deal. He has absolutely no leverage, and nobody's going to trade for Kyle Shanahan running back who's 28 years old. I think he's 28. So forget about those 2. Mixon will get done. Raheem's just going to have to suck it up. But Dalvin Cook is a concern, and here's why. Dalvin Cook is in a similar situation to another recent holdout, Le'Veon Bell. Okay, so a lot of people are like, well, if Dalvin Cook, continues to hold out, then he won't accrue a season or whatever the case may be. But here's the thing. If he sits out this whole season, then he just has to play one more and is an unrestricted free agent. Okay? Let's not forget, Dalvin Cook has shoulder issues. Once you separate your shoulder once, the likelihood of you separating it again is huge. It's huge. So Dalvin Cook is better off in some ways holding out, even if it costs him. Remember, if Dalvin Cook holds out a whole season, he's not getting paid that much anyway. He's going to miss out on $2 million maybe, which in the grand scheme, it's not a lot of money, okay? But if he plays and he injures that shoulder again, he's missing out on what did Derrick Henry get? $25 million guaranteed. I suspect Dalvin Cook would at least get 30. So that's the thing. Everybody says Le'Veon messed up. No, Le'Veon still got paid at the end of the day. Because if Le'Veon got hurt that last year, he wouldn't have got crap. Look at Devontae. Look at all these running backs that they, try to play, and then they ended up with nothing. So, yeah, it's scary because here's the thing too, is that Gary Kubiak's another one of those coordinators that he doesn't really need Dalvin Cook like that. They have a very capable back. I'm not saying that Alexander Madison is Cook, but he's definitely capable, especially in that zone scheme. So that's one of those situations that I think Dalvin Cook could miss games. I think he could because Minnesota's not going to be desperate to sign him when $12 million or more because they got Madison, but at the same time, Dalvin Cook's not desperate to come back because if he gets injured, he's screwed,
So with that said, in season long, are you reaching on Madison? And if you're drafting early, are you reaching on Madison?
It depends how much I have to reach though, because perfect example what happened in our followers league, the Throne. That Alexander Cook owner, the Dalvin Cook owner went ahead and reached for Alexander Madison. So I'm not gonna reach maybe the 7th round. You know what I'm saying? Maybe if I'm a Cook owner, but then it's almost like you're wasting 2 picks just to get one. Yeah, you're guaranteed that stud, but you're using 2 picks on one player essentially, especially 2 high picks. Because if you want Alexander Madison for sure, you kind of got to draft him in the 7th because there is a real possibility somebody might reach for the 8th or 9th. So.
Yeah, I feel you. I agree with you on the other 2 situations. I think that they'll probably get worked out. I feel a little stronger about Mixon than the Mostert situation, just because I think, yes, he's not going to get traded. He's not going to get moved. But this may open a role potentially for someone else to step up. Are you liking McKinnon at all as a late round value, or even Tevin Coleman? I mean, we want to bury Tevin Coleman, but he's still on that roster.
I'm not feeling it. I'm just not. Jerick McKinnon is an absolute hell no. See, I played fantasy football a little different too. Like there's certain analysts, like if a player falls enough, they'll take them. They're like, oh, well, this is a value just because they look at ADP. So if Jerick McKinnon is a 10th rounder and then he's going in the 12th, they're like, oh, well, he's a good value. No, if I don't like you, I don't like you. Like I don't really care. Like Will Fuller, it could be the 16th round, and I will not draft Will Fuller because I don't like people letting me down. So if I don't fuck with you, I don't fuck with you, regardless of rounds. That's just the way I play. But Jerick McKinnon's an absolute hell no. Tevin Coleman, maybe in like a 16-team league and like crazy low round. The other thing, I don't like inconsistent players. Like Tevin Coleman, yeah, I'm sure he'll have a game or 2 where he goes off like he did last year, and that's fine. But he didn't look that great. I wasn't impressed. Again, I watched football. I didn't see anything. Now, Raheem Mostert looked really good. So I think Raheem Mostert will be there. Tevin Coleman I like more than McKinnon. McKinnon's just no way I'm touching him. Tevin Coleman, I have to be like the latest picks.
And if you want to hear more about the 49ers running back situation, check out my other show where 49 Reasons to Listen, where we rock the Kyle Shanahan New Era hat. That's a free plug for you, Kyle. Anyway, let's see here. So, okay, got those positions established. Let me tell you about another great value. That's going to be our second sponsor, RazorSport.com. Here's a quick word from them.
I'm LeBron James. No, I'm not. But I'm the king when it comes to sports betting. Bet Razor. RazorSport.com.
And we're back. All right, guys. Like I said, Razor, RAZER Sport.com. Go ahead and check them out. Great play. Great to help you beat those Vegas odds. Let's get into the last kind of like moving on down for the show. So let's talk about some value plays here. So obviously, I agree with you on a lot of things, just in sense. In fantasy football, it does seem like there is a lot of groupthink. Like when one person starts building a narrative, like let's say you and I just started saying, we think Saquon Barkley is going to be a bust this year. And then one other analyst picks that up. Then it just trickles down and suddenly Saquon Barkley's ADP drops all the way to the 4th round. Now, I don't know how those quads are going to bust, but, it's possible. The things have happened. So when you look at like kind of like the first round here, is there anyone you're looking at and you're just like, damn, I'm just not feeling it this year? I think this is going to be one of those guys that if you draft him, you're going to be paying for it later on.
Is Julio going in the first round?
He is going at 11 right now. So fringe first rounder, like you can swap him in and out.
Definitely Julio. That would be the first name that comes to mind.
Interesting. What kind of leads you around that like pick? Do you think just Ridley's going to be taking a second step in the offense? Do you think Matt Ryan's falling off? What is it?
No, he's 31 years old. I do see the emergence of Ridley really taking over. And, receivers at 31, not saying it's never happened. Randy Moss, Andre Johnson, there's a couple exceptions, Marvin Harrison. But Julio is not only 31, but he relies a lot on his athleticism. That's usually the first thing to go. And, football is one of those sports. You could be a Pro Bowler one year and fall off the planet the next year completely. So why would I go? I feel like, why would you ever draft Julio in the first round where I think you could get similar production, if not better production, in like the 4th or 5th round with a guy like DJ Shark, Terry McLaurin? I'd rather go with the younger player on the uprise, and they have no competition for targets whatsoever. I'd rather go with those players than go with the aging veteran who, let's face it, however you want to spin it, Julio's 31. He's more on the downside than the upside. So that would be my pick. I definitely wouldn't. And again, receivers so deep. Why would you even pick a receiver outside of Michael Thomas and Adams, and to a lesser extent Godwin? Like I'm not doing that.
I feel that the wide. I always feel better about my teams walking out of the draft whenever I have some star running backs at the top, and then I can always pick at those wide receivers later. I mean, hell, some years I've hit on Terrell Pryor in his one good year with the. God, was it with the Browns? Or he bounced around so damn much. I can't even remember.
I think it was the Browns.
But you're right. I mean, you mentioned some interesting names there. Terry McLaurin, certainly. Like you would think he's the number one guy out there in Washington, or at least has to be this year. DJ Chark really had something going with Gardner last year, so maybe he can take another step. You don't worry about Laviska Shenault taking away any catches from him now? Not even on your radar?
No. Dynasty maybe. But he's a raw talent. You're talking about a rookie. How many rookie receivers tend to have an impact? And you add that with what's going on these days with COVID. There's no off season, and even as a prospect, he was very, very raw. Now I do think Dre Gruden will know what to do with him, but I do think it's going to take some time. So better dynasty play, no value redraft.
Is there some rookie wide receivers, and for that matter, rookie running backs that you're thinking actually have value in season long as opposed to just dynasty?
Oh, there's a ton.
Okay, let's talk about like some in that first round, for example, like Justin Jefferson, maybe Brandon Ayuk. Any of those names kind of like catching your eye? Hell, even Jalen Reagor starting to pop off. I've seen in some.
I love Reagor. Absolutely love Reagor. You named my two favorite. Reagor and Justin Jefferson are gonna ball the fuck out this year. Mark them. Ayuk, I'm not touching. I just don't like Jimmy. And you're talking about a run-first team. Kittle is the main target there, and then the next target is what's his name? Deebo Samuel. I don't know the situation. He's hurt, but he might be back week 1, whatever. So I'm not feeling Ayuk. A lot of people are high on him. I'm not one of them.
Hey, I'll give you that. I mean, in terms of fantasy, I will fade Jimmy. That's my unbiased side of me coming out. But man, you start saying Jimmy's overrated. Those are fighting words right now. I'm just putting it out there.
I'm a Niner fan.
Oh, no kidding.
I'm a Niner fan. I'm objective though.
Yeah, I feel you.
He laid an egg in the Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo is good when all things are working and all the systems, and he's got those little. But he missed a wide open. Who was it? Goodwin? He opened.
No, it was Emmanuel Sanders, who is now on the Saints. So that should be fun.
Sanders. Yeah. It was Emmanuel Sanders wide open in the biggest stage. That was the game. Game over. You hit that, you are a winner. This guy totally choked on the Super Bowl. Jimmy,
I mean, come on. Emmanuel Mosley blowing that coverage, though, is just as egregious
as
we think about that one.
That's fine. No, but, at the end of the day, the Niners were up. Listen, the defense did its job. We're talking about Patrick Mahomes.
Not that 7 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, I get it. But they held them enough to win the game. The Niners did not score what seemed at all that second half. I put that on Jimmy. I don't put that on defense. At a certain point, bro, you're tired as a defense. You know how hard it is to keep up with Tyreek and Kelsey and Patrick Mahomes and Damian Williams? Like, that shit. I'm exhausted just talking about it.
I mean, it doesn't help certainly when Nick Bosa is also getting held to death as well on that famous wasp play. I mean, I'm not going to – I don't want to go too far into it. We could go into a rabbit hole. I've been reliving the Super Bowl every day since that. Especially with how crappy 2020 has turned out, it has just been a double emphasis point on that. What about a bounce-back candidate? What about, like, Juju Smith-Schuster? I'm seeing, like, his name pop up.
I love him. He's arguably my favorite player in the whole draft. Like, I love fucking Juju. I love Juju. Juju is a top 3 receiver guaranteed. Guaranteed.
Hey, from Juju Talk Sports, I'm saying I agree. Juju, it's all about you. Do it for the Jujus. More Juju for you. Let's get this. I mean, Big Ben, if he's back, he's healthy. That Steelers offense has always been good for its number 1 wide receiver. So I feel that. As long as Big Ben's starting, that's the key. Because if I have to see another year of Mason Rudolph or Duck Hodges,
All
then
bets
that's
are
like
off.
just sell all your Juju Smith-Schuster stuff in that situation.
No, for sure.
Let's talk about some running back value then. David Johnson's starting to pick up some steam, I'm seeing.
Oh, God, please.
No.
God, no. Jesus.
Okay, fair enough. New situation, Houston. I mean, they did make Carlos Hyde a 1,000-yard rusher last year.
I don't give a damn.
Carlos Hyde. Do you think Carlos Hyde is better off in his career right now than David Johnson?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. What about a very popular pick last year that didn't really pan out? David Montgomery in Chicago.
Love him. Love David Montgomery.
You think they'll finally start kind of like shifting away from Tariq Cohen? Because, I mean, I love Tariq. He's a fun player to watch. But in terms of fantasy, he killed all David Montgomery owners last year.
I disagree with that. I think maybe early on, yes. But the second half of the season, I mean, David Montgomery was like, I forget the stats, but maybe top 5, top 10 in rushing attempts. So, yeah, I would agree with you for the first half of the year. And then everybody started yelling at Nagy, and I think he heard the whispers, especially when your team's sucking and, you know, everybody. But so I expect to see more David Montgomery. I think he will be the feature back. I think he's going to get 70% of the snaps. I think Tariq Cohen will finally be what he's supposed to be, which is like a change of pace, maybe some of the third down snaps. But I do think this is David Montgomery's backfield, and I think he is at a tremendous value in the 5th round. He is a solid RB2 with low RB1 upside.
My colleague wanted me to check in on what your thoughts here. So the Chiefs have put it out there that they could potentially see Damian Williams and Clyde Edwards-Helaire in somewhat of a timeshare. Now, Damian Williams, you could have made the case he was the Super Bowl MVP last year. Again, don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but I don't think that the Chiefs are going to completely just like disown him, even though they went out to get Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the first round. How do you see that like split playing out? Because Andy Reid has always been a bell cow kind of coach.
I don't know if that's entirely true. Like, I get where the rumors started about that, but even when, you know, he had Kareem Hunt, he would do I'll remember Kareem Hunt's rookie year. He started off like a bat out of hell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then he had a stretch where he kind of faded. And then Matt Nagy became calling the plays. And that's why I was so high on David Montgomery last year, because when Matt Nagy became the offensive coordinator, or at least, you know, calling the plays, because he was offensive coordinator already, but Andy Reid was calling the plays. That's when they really ran Kareem Hunt a lot, and he came back and he finished, I don't know, top 5, whatever. So Andy Reid would always do weird shit, though. Like, if you watch him throughout his career, like, you know, it'll be like, okay, Ryan or Kareem Hunt or whoever is killing it, and then he'll pull him out in the goal line situation. Like, Andy Reid's been famous for that. So I could definitely see a committee of some sort. I don't think Damian Williams is going to fade away. He has the trust of the offense. He was arguably a Super Bowl MVP, even though he didn't get the hardware. And Andy Reid has not been known kind to rookies. The other thing is, it took Spencer Ware getting injured. A lot of people forget Kareem Hunt wasn't handed the starting job. Spencer Ware was the starting running back. It's only until he got injured, which happened to be before the season started, where they had no choice. Kareem's the next guy, the depth chart, the rest is history. But Spencer Ware was still the number 1 back when they drafted Kareem. So I do think it'll be a timeshare initially. Maybe as the season goes along, these things have a funny way of playing themselves out. So I could definitely see Clyde Edwards-Helaire being that guy. But right now he's going super early. And if you're not a really good drafter, that might hurt you.
Okay, so that definitely is good advice to kind of like, I mean, not fade Clyde Edwards-Helaire, because I do think he will have a role, but I'm not drafting him in the second. I think that's a little bit where we're starting to see, like you said, it gets scary around that area. And Damian Williams, at bare minimum this year, throughout the season, he's going to get some third down work. You know, he does have a role in that pass catching thing, and yeah, he's not too bad. But All right. So, I mean, I think that covers about like all the main guys I wanted to talk about. So before we head you out here, let me ask you. So we ask all our guests, favorite all-time sports movie.
I guess I'll go with the one that first popped in my head. Remember the Titans was a great movie.
Hey, you're in good company. I think about like 10 of our guests have like said that one. I mean, hey, it's a good. You're right.
But there's a couple other ones. Like I don't know if Karate Kid's considered a sports movie.
It is.
I love Karate Kid. Karate Kid 2 especially, and then Varsity Blues was a great like teeny bopper movie. So that's awesome. So there's a lot of them. But yeah, I guess we'll go with Remember the Titans was so beautifully done. So.
Okay, we've talked to Remember the Titans death. Just a quick question: did you have you gone into Cobra Kai at all?
The YouTube series or whatever.
Yeah, because you mentioned Karate Kid, so I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, I don't watch TV, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I just don't have the time, so I never saw it, but I read about it or whatever. But
if you get a second, yeah. If you get a second, it's worth it. You know, I mean, Johnny Lawrence, see his side of the story. It kind of makes you think like maybe Danny LaRusso was a bit of a douchebag, but you know.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind checking it out, definitely.
All right, man. Well, you got to educate the people. You got to tell them where they can find all the fantastic content and work you put into your show. Appreciate it.
So yeah, probably my main thing is Instagram at Fantasy Football Rapper, also YouTube. I'm actually going to be doing my own podcast probably for the next couple of weeks here. I'm still trying to get all that sorted out. But yeah, Fantasy Football Rapper across the board. And then at IamFF Rapper on Twitter.
All right, guys. Obviously, you're listening to the show, so you know where to find us. But we need you to hit that subscribe button. So go ahead, find us at Slumpbuster Podcast on IG, at Slumpbuster Pod on Twitter, all your major streaming platforms. Until our next episode, you guys got to stay safe, happy, and healthy. And we'll see you again next week.